I'm Starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not be afraid of the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightest. And in fact, we are talking about a bright star because yesterday we had a new moon at 12 degrees of Aquarius. And so the sun, the new moon, and Saturn were all conjuncting each other in Aquarius. And Aquarius rules the future, and it rules high tech, and it rules space and aviation and invention and music, and it rules rebellion, and it rules electronics, and it rules satellites and the fiber optic cables that are laid carefully to transmit digital information, and it also rules social media and different ways of, or different developments in artificial intelligence, for instance. So Aquarius rules a lot of things, and that's why it may seem a little bit odd to you that the title of the show today is Implosion. And an implosion is a term that relates to the construction industry. And the reason why is that somebody can come along and be looking at real estate in a crowded urban area, and they may see an old building that they want to buy. So they do. And now they want to tear that old building down and put up a new one. And in order to tear the old building down, which is crowding in among a lot of other buildings, they have to be very careful to remove only the old building and not touch anything else. So they hire a demolition crew to place explosives in places that are strategic to helping the building implode, which means fall down upon itself. And so it's the opposite of exploding. When something explodes, it explodes things all over the place. I mean, there's debris everywhere. But in an implode, you're falling down on yourself, or you're falling down in an inner kind of a way. And that is what I think is happening. The implosion I'm talking about is not a physical one like the builder would be going through, but it is either an emotional or psychological one that some people can be going through who have been around for a long time, ever since Saturn was last in Aquarius. And Saturn's transit is 28 to 30 years. So 28 to 30 years ago, well, we had another new moon and sun and Saturn in Aquarius, just like we did yesterday. And so what was going on then? Well, it was the early to the mid-1990s. And that was such an exciting time for people who wanted to develop high tech. That's when the internet really zoomed forward. That's when inventions came out. That's when there was more space exploration. And there were advances in aviation. And Aquarius rules music. And it also is the sign of the humanitarian. So there could have been a rise in a lot of humanitarian causes. And so the people that rose to prominence came out of the earlier mid-90s, and particularly the ones that were inventing something new, they may have gone on to form their own companies or to certainly do something that benefited them financially, because high tech was real popular and still is. And so it simply means that those people are, some of them can be in a state of implosion right about now. And that is because over the last 28 to 30 years, while they were so embroiled in what they were doing and loving every minute of it, you know, they did develop things. And now, an implosion, which I'm talking about, it's sort of a psychological state of melancholy, or even depression. That's what Saturn can rule. And the sun and the moon are conjuncting it. That could overcome people who had risen to such prominence through their own hard efforts and their own wits to become fabulously wealthy and to run companies that somewhere along the line, not all of them, but some of them, could have sort of stepped over a line and decided that they would be the arbiter of how other people used their invention or used their system. To the point, I'll use the example of social media, to the point of decided what could be said, well, in others, what we said, or what they were going to do, regardless of what the laws were. And so they sort of got a little above themselves and got very rich doing it. And it's those people now, under this new moon, that can be experiencing a feeling of being yesterday's news. In other words, not so excited about what is going forward. Or perhaps having made a lot of money, deciding that, oh well, nothing else is necessary except to sit back, relax, and enjoy it. So they could be feeling a little melancholy for those good old days when everything was new and exciting. Or for the people, many of whom were doing this, who were riding the coattails of the inventors. Those people that were sort of along for the ride and taking advantage in their own way of everything that was being developed or done. Those people, too, could be going through some sort of letdown right now, a psychological letdown, because they're sort of yesterday's news. And so if you ask somebody who was just very ambitious during the 90s about the development of anything that has to do with the things that Aquarius rules, particularly the field of high tech, you should ask them what they've done lately, because 28 to 30 years is a long time. And what has happened is that was the era of the sort of the birth of high tech. And now Saturn has come full circle. And I think that we are into the next higher development of it all, which might involve artificial intelligence and a lot more going on in space and with satellites and the development of all kinds of new things. And so it might be that the people who first came along and were the inventors that more or less set it all up might not be the same people that are going to take it to the next level. But some of them could be, however, not all of them. There are plenty of people that went to the top and made so much money that they can sort of retire to an island right now and enjoy the rest of their lives and live off the money they made. But inside, there could be a little melancholy, a little depression, a little implosion of their identity or their former identity, because they're not really in that second wave of high tech, which I think will be going forward for the next 28 to 30 years. Because Saturn's going to leave Aquarius this year. And after it leaves Aquarius, it will be another 28 to 30 years before it gets back. So that will be another round of development and experimentation and invention. But particularly for the people that have been riding the coattails, taking advantage of the people who truly were brilliant, the world might not need them anymore. The world is changing. So what's making the change? What is the difference between the full moon and the sun conjuncting Saturn yesterday, when the exact same thing happened 28 to 30 years ago in the mid-90s? The difference, the reason why there's an implosion now, is in the slower moving planets, because they have an effect. They're so slow we don't notice the effect until we are in a broad span of time that we're measuring. But Uranus wasn't in Taurus 28 to 30 years ago, the last time that Saturn was in Aquarius. Neptune, it wasn't in Pisces. It's a real slow mover. Now it's in Pisces, but it wasn't in Pisces then. And Pluto wasn't in Capricorn then, but it is now. And we have to look at the effect of these slower moving planets and what that means this year, and particularly in this somewhat prophetic new moon that we just had yesterday in Aquarius. So I'm not saying that we're all going to feel that we're imploding, but I do think there is a sense of inner melancholy or sadness among some people who feel that the ride is over, or that time is passing them by, or they can't find another coattail to ride. Who knows? Yeah, they could be a little sad about that. But what we're looking for is we're looking for more invention. We're looking for the next whole field of development in high tech, or in telecommunications, or in social media, or in space. And also, Aquarius rules freedom. The thing that went wrong with some of these people is that they began to think that they could limit our freedoms. And they used their tools to do it. So that was crossing a line, wasn't it? Because this is a country that says you've got the freedom of speech. You have the freedom of religion. You have the freedom of assembly. Nobody can stop it. But some people tried. And those are the ones that are sort of, they're fading into the sunset. They haven't come up with anything new. And they haven't succeeded at limiting our freedoms either. Sooner or later, if you break the law and you think you can get away with it because you're king of the mountain, sooner or later the law catches up with you. Generally it's way later, but they do catch up with you. And that could be happening. That might be why some people who have been very powerful and made a lot of money can be imploding. Or the people that are sort of hanging on to their coattails, those people can be imploding as well. Sort of like the party's over. But if there were inventors, musicians, aviators, people who want to go to space, if they just kept plugging away and thinking of new things, and they used their money to develop those new things, that's a whole different story. That's moving right into this second wave of high tech and its effect, which I think now, particularly under yesterday's new moon, is going to go on for another 28 to 30 years. You just can't you can't stop time. So tomorrow's coming for everybody at the same rate of speed. Nobody's got a handle on time. But that does mean that we still have to keep our basic values. And the people that made something of their invention, and not only that just they made money, but that they actually had an effect on society, a good effect on society. And if that is their motivation behind whatever they do, then certainly they should keep going. I don't think they're going to implode, but some other people could. And so I think that is what is happening right now, is that these outer planets are having an effect on everybody. And they weren't there the last time Saturn was in Aquarius under the new moons. They're there now. So, Uranus in Taurus is direct. It's a volatile planet. It rules Aquarius. But ever since it entered Taurus, it has been squaring the sign it rules, Aquarius. So it is squaring the sun, the new moon, and Saturn. And the sad thing about all of this is that this is one of the rare new moons, the one that happened yesterday, that is completely unsupported. There are no planets in Gemini, and there are no planets in Libra. There's nothing supporting this new moon. And that's why I began to look at, okay, what's not there? And that's when I began to think, ooh, there's an implosion. It's Saturn that the lights are conjuncting, but Uranus is squaring them all. Now, that is significant because, okay, there might be 3 planets in Aquarius, but they're not supported by anything, and Uranus is. Wow, is it supported right now? Remember, it's the ruler of Aquarius. It's in a money sign, a fixed financial sign, but it is being tried by Mars, exalted in Capricorn, by Venus, the ruler of Taurus, in very good aspect because it's trining that Uranus. Exactly. Venus is at 11 degrees today, and so is Uranus in Taurus. Perfect trine. And also, Mercury is retrograde in Capricorn, and Pluto is there as well. Capricorn is loaded, and it's loaded with 4 planets that are completely reinforcing that Uranus in Taurus, which is turning around with all of its power and might and backup, and is squaring this new moon and Saturn and the Sun in Aquarius. So, new moons are great, but this new moon I think this new moon is going to have what you might call a sobering effect on a lot of people. And yet, you know, you can't ride the glory train forever. If you're going to be innovative, if you're interested in new things, if you have an inventive or somewhat eccentric mind, then you got to keep going. And I guess that's just the way the world is. The same thing if you were a musician. You know, if you have a good song and you're playing it, well, then what's wrong with thinking of another good song? I mean, and artists are the same thing. All they need to do is, and so are writers, all you need to do is be inspired and you can do it. And so it's the inspiration that is missing from some people who have decided not to go forward with their initial enthusiasm. They made the money they wanted to make, and that's it. They're rich, but not too interesting anymore. It's the person that's coming along trying new things. I mean, you may not know if they're going to work, but it sure is interesting to find out, isn't it? Particularly in America. The reason why so much high-tech gets developed in America is Americans are always wondering what's around the next bend. You know, what's out there beyond the planets? What's way down in the bottom of the ocean? So this is a time when those people who have lost their enthusiasm, they didn't lose money, but they sort of lost their zest, or those that were just hanging on to somebody else's success, they are imploding inside. They might look successful on the outside, but inside, they're not so much there anymore. And that's their business. You know, they'll just have to handle it however they feel like handling it. Okay, so what does this mean, this idea of implosion, mean to all 12 of the sun signs? Well, Aries, you know, Aries, it's a little bit of a repeat from last week in that your ruler is Mars, and Mars is exalted in Capricorn, a business sign, and Capricorn rules big government and large corporations and the management in them. And so that exalted Mars in Capricorn is squaring your sun. So is Venus, which is being beautifully trined by Uranus in Taurus right now. and yet it's also squaring your sun, which I think means that you have a little problem in some relationships. Not all relationships, but some relationships are proving more problematic than you think. Aries is always fun to be with. Aries are very energetic people. But I would say there are some people that they're not so sold anymore. And Pluto is in Capricorn squaring your sun, which means there's a real question about the level of your authority right now. And it doesn't mean that your authority has diminished, but it does seem to indicate there would be a change coming. And then Mercury is retrograde in Capricorn as well, meaning you could be giving mixed messages or you could be receiving mixed messages from other people. Sort of sounds confusing, doesn't it? And maybe it is for right now. There are no planets in fire signs, so this is a time, even though the new moon in Aquarius was sextiling your sun, it is not fortified by anything. There are no planets in the other air signs, and it really is being rather strictly accountable to whatever that Uranus and Taurus has got in their mind. In other words, Uranus and Taurus, since Taurus rules investments, and Uranus rules Aquarius, and it rules sudden change, there could be a sudden surprising change in your investments, and so that means you could make a lot of money. Maybe you could just walk into a sweet deal, and if you had enough money to put down on it, maybe you could make a lot of money right now, quite suddenly. But it is under this Uranus squaring the new moon, it is a little bit more likely that you could almost lose a business partner, or you would lose a good opportunity. And I would say it is because the times are changing. And some good opportunity probably would have gone through a year ago or 2 years ago, but it's not going to now. And that's because there is an economic downturn, sort of like a double-edged sword, because the economic downturn means that the market is frothy and that it's unstable. That's Uranus and Taurus. And so people can lose a lot in their retirement accounts, and inflation is going sky high. And there doesn't seem to be a remedy for that. I don't see anybody doing anything. I think the people that should be doing something don't know what to do. Because if they did, why aren't they doing it? So we need somebody pretty smart. I don't think that there are people that understand that high debt and high inflation, those are sinkers. Those can make a nation implode together. So somebody's got to have their skill level raised in order to fix a big problem like that. So anyway, Aries, I think that you are looking at the fact that these are not the good old days. And if you could accept that premise, due to the 4 planets in Capricorn that are squaring your sun, and the fact that the new moon behind your sun sign is not supported at all, then maybe you could be open to some sort of change. And being a little bit more agreeable to change right now would do you a lot of good in the long run. But should you decide, no, you want to do things your way and continue on your current course, I would say that, remember, these slow planets are making a big difference right now. And I would say that it's you that would receive the course correction, no one else. And that would lead to an implosion. Eventually, a personal implosion of your own. You don't have to believe me or anything, Aries, but this isn't the time when it's business as usual, even though you're very good at what you do. I'm not saying you're not talented. I'm saying that conditions have changed around you enough that there are things that are out of your control that can have quite a dampening effect on your plans. And I would be gracious and accept that there will be some changes you won't like, but that's the way it is now. So I wish you the best of luck. You're still going to have a great summer. And Jupiter is coming for sure. It'll come into your sign this summer, but it will come into your sign for a longer stay next year. And that is when you're really going to be going in a new direction. So that's why I'm urging you to be open to change now. I'm real sure you're going in a new direction next year, or a little sooner, maybe by this summer. Okay, what does it mean to a Taurus? Well, Taurus, this is a time when, as I've explained, that Uranus in your sign is so well backed up, and it is an unstable planet. But yours is a fixed financial sign. And yes, the Sun, the New Moon, and Saturn are all squaring your sign where you have Uranus, but that Uranus is being trined beautifully and exactly by your ruler, Venus. That's good for you, Taurus. I mean, I think your love life could be pretty good right now, or happy at least. And Pluto is trining your sun, so is Mercury, and so is that exalted Mars. Now, sure, Venus is romantic, but Mars isn't. Mars is exalted in Capricorn and beautifully trining Uranus. These are two malefic planets. They can get people in trouble. But for your sign, they're trining each other. And so, Taurus, if there was a little score you wanted to settle, or there was something that you wanted to wind up right now, particularly a business matter, or if you are having any kind of a controversy with a government agency in one way or another, you just might win it, Taurus. Because you would be able, through the help of others, to direct your forces somewhat economically, but in a very direct way, right toward the heart of the problem. And you probably would be able to resolve it. And so that's good. So I think that happier days are ahead of you. You just have to remember that it's the lights that are squaring your sun. It's the sun and the moon. They're fast movers. The moon moves through a sign in 2.5 days. It's going to be in Pisces pretty quick. But they're both still there today in Aquarius. And so I would say this is a better time, Taurus, for you to plan very efficiently what direct moves you want to make, and then do it. Do it while these malefic planets are actually trining each other, Uranus in your sign and Mars in Capricorn. Because Saturn is the third malefic planet, and it's definitely squaring your sun. There is the possibility, for one reason or another that you may not be telling too many people about, that you could feel a little depressed or melancholy about what you might call a day that has passed. Something has changed or passed, and it's over, and you can't bring it back. It's done. And you could feel a little bit like you're imploding on the inside because of that. But I would say there are stronger influences around you, and this is the time to act in a very directed manner. Now, not cruelly in any way, but I mean, cut out the small talk and just get the job done, Taurus. You can do it. And this is the right time. So it may have something to do with managing your accounts, particularly your investment accounts. Maybe you're going to have to get sort of on top of all that yourself, which is good. You can do it. Yours is a fixed financial sign. Okay, what does it mean to a Gemini? Well, Gemini, this is a time when you can benefit quite a bit from the fact that the Sun, the New Moon, and Saturn in Aquarius are all trining your sun sign, Gemini. That's good. It's giving you a boost. Now, Saturn has been trining your sun sign now for quite a while, and it will continue throughout this year to do it, which means that your old friends or people that are in sort of high places that have known you a long time really do believe in you, and they are backing you up 100%. It might be a little more than 100% right now because the Sun and the Moon are doing the same thing. They're trining your Sun and the Libra Sun. And so this is a good time to open up a little bit, Gemini, and communicate and put out your feelers. Even if you hate to sit down and do paperwork, this is when you should do it. Just write down what your tasks are, and as soon as you complete one, just check it off, and then the next one and the next one. You'll be glad you did, because that would open up more time or more space for you to do more pleasant things. And you should do that while the Sun and the Moon are trining your Sun. So this is good. I mean, the Sun was only at 12 degrees yesterday. It's going to be in Aquarius for a while. The Moon will zoom on, but the Sun's going to be there. And so is Saturn. So you may be on the verge. If it's not you, it's a friend of yours. You could be on the verge of making a sort of a serious change, but a very beneficial one. Very good. But one that you may not be 100% sure about. But I would say go to it. It is somewhat aspected to turn out better than you think in the long run. I'm not saying that it is a bed of roses, but what I'm saying is that it's going to sort of end up as a rose garden. It's going to end up just fine. So if there is a change coming up, that other people are involved with who do back you up and like you quite a bit, it's going to be worth it, Gemini. So just get the little stuff out of the way and then embrace change, because it is going to work out better than you think. Okay, what does it mean to a Cancer? Well, Cancer, this is a time when I think that you can be almost like an observer, sitting on the sidelines, watching some people who you know, and maybe have known for a long time, who are being rather quiet right now, or they're being sort of withdrawn, or maybe you haven't heard from them in a long time, something like that. They might be imploding a little bit. But you know, every person has to deal with their own feelings. It's sort of not any of our business to do that for them, but to respect their distance or their silence, and sort of bless them and hope they do what's best for them. So Uranus is a nurturing sign. You like to nurture everybody. That's fine. But sometimes people, particularly those that are imploding from the inside psychologically, sort of feeling bad because they're yesterday's news, and it's beginning to dawn on them that that's true. Like the good old days are over. You have to let them alone and give them time to adjust. And that is out of a respect for every human being that heals in their own way. And you do too, Cancer. You heal in your own way. All of us do, individually. So if somebody's being real quiet on you right now, just leave them alone. It's no reflection on you at all. It's something that they're going through inside of themselves. And maybe they just need a little quiet time to do that, which is fine. For you, I don't think you're imploding. I think that since this new moon is actually in conjunct your sun, it means it may not have much effect on you because it's 150 degrees away from your sun sign. But there are some good planets that affect you. Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces are both direct, and they are both trining your sun. And then, the thing that I think sometimes Cancers forget, but oh, they shouldn't do that, is that any planet in Taurus sextiles the Cancer sun. So this Uranus, which is so well backed up, gee, it could just about do anything right now, successfully. That Uranus in Taurus is sextiling your sun, and Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces are trining your sun. Cancer, you have a unique opportunity to take advantage of a business matter, or to be able to reallocate your investments in some way. I think you could do that and probably be successful at that, based even on some information that you get from behind the scenes, or some sort of quiet information you know that not everybody else knows. And it can certainly work to your advantage. So I don't necessarily think that you are a person that is worried about the next round of high-tech development. Remember, this new moon in Aquarius represents people who have been around since the mid-90s, who have been involved in high-tech. They made high-tech high. I mean, they really developed it. And they developed a lot of humanitarian causes as well, which is nice. But now that the next higher level is coming along, you may or may not be interested in that. I don't know, Cancer. But I do know that whatever you're interested in, it's in this changing economic world, or in a world that could be threatened by a crisis of some sort. You would sort of want to know where all the money is. You would want to make sure that things are nailed down pretty well, or that your investments were safe. And you can be looking at that now, and due to some information that you have, or help you have from behind the scenes, you can be doing okay with that. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Leo? Well, Leo, this is a time when it's you that might be imploding, Leo. And the reason why is that Uranus in Taurus is squaring your sun. It's been doing that for years. It's going to continue until 2025 to do that. And yesterday and today, because these planets haven't changed, the sun, the new moon, and Saturn in Aquarius are all opposing your sun sign, Leo. And Saturn is a planet of time, and it can sometimes represent things that are winding up. Okay, it's like they're finally done. And that's true. Aquarius takes 28 to 30 years to get around. So it hasn't been in this position in your chart since the mid-90s. Because it's been 28 to 30 years since it's been in Aquarius. Now, it's been in Aquarius for a while, but it hadn't been before, except in the mid-90s. And so, since these three planets are opposing your sun sign, and Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, is squaring your sun sign, I would say, one, you need to watch your money really closely. There could be some sort of cyber security problem, or cyber theft, identity theft, or worse. And there certainly could be trouble with flying, so I don't advise you to do a lot of that. And there could be some people that you have known since the 90s that are not around anymore. Now, it's either because they are yesterday's news or you are, one or the other. And so I think that your relationships are changing. And if you're realizing that right now, you may feel as if psychologically something is just imploding within you. And it could be a way of life, the way you used to do something is imploding because you're not doing that anymore. And I would say, since yours is a fixed sign, there are 4 planets in fixed signs right now, all in harsh aspect to your sun sign. Uranus in Taurus and the 3 in Aquarius. I would say that Leo, because yours is a fixed sign, if you were looking at the absence of the good old days, you may decide, oh, well, you want to recreate that. You can get that back. You can just have everything go back the way it used to be. No, you can't. Nobody can, Leo. No. The reason why is those slow-moving planets are in such different places than they were in during the 90s, when Saturn was last in Aquarius. And at that time, there could have been something going on that grew and grew and grew and grew and grew, just like the development of high tech during that whole cycle that Saturn took to get around, 28 to 30 years. But now this next new moon is signifying that people are moving on to the next level. And it does not look like they're taking you with them. Now, Leo, believe it or not, even if you mind that now, and you feel a little melancholy or depression or implosion, I can guarantee you by this summer you're going to be glad that happened. Because Jupiter will go into Aries and it will trine your sun this summer. It's only during the summer that it'll do that, but that's enough time for you to get going, Leo. You're a fire sign. You can make up for lost time. And then it goes permanently into Aries next year. And trines your sun. So don't dwell on being yesterday's news. Just try, if you can, to clean house. Instead of trying to resurrect what used to be, why don't you see that that belongs to another time and let it go? And instead, face what might be coming. Ask yourself, well, do I have a new chance at something? Is there something better around the next bend? Well, there is. It's not coming till summer, but it's there. So, Leo, don't feel bad about being yesterday's news. You're just going to have time, more or less, to clear the decks a little bit and then think about something new that you want to do and then get on it by this summer. You don't have a lot of time left to really get yourself prepared for something new, and that's what you should be doing, not trying to hang on to the past. I would say goodbye to the past. It's got dust on it. Ooh, let it go. And instead, try for tomorrow. New is better. Okay, what does it mean to a Virgo? Well, Virgo, this is a time when I think once again you just simply benefit from the 5 planets that are in Earth signs now, because they all trine your sun, Virgo. So Uranus and Taurus is trining your sun, and it's so beautifully backed up by Mars exalted in Capricorn, Venus there, Pluto there, and Mercury there, and they are all trining your sun as well. Since Mercury is retrograde now, that is an indication that there is some business matter that has to be dealt with. It has to be sort of cleaned up. Or you may have been sort of letting things sit on the shelf and not doing anything about them for quite a while, even years. And that means you haven't gotten anywhere with that. And you are under such good aspects and have so much support from strong planets in other Earth signs that you really have to summon up the courage and the time to sort of get your act together about something that's pretty dear to your heart, Virgo. And, you know, get serious about it in one way or another, more serious. And I would say, if you're still a little bit undecided about what to do next, I would say, you know, in our goals, there are certain steps we can take to reach a goal. Just take one step and see how you like it. You don't have to reach the whole goal, but you do have to advance now. It would be sheer folly for you not to advance when you have so much support. And it's practical support from other people who are very knowledgeable, and all you have to do is go talk to them. They'll help you. So I would take advantage of that now. Because remember, the reason why some people can be yesterday's news and they are imploding on the inside, no matter how rich and famous they are, is because they didn't advance. They didn't want to. They just wanted to pile up the money. But they weren't out there thinking of the next creative thing. Those are the people that are going to advance. So you have to too, Virgo. You know, you're talented. You need to work a little hard at using that talent, at taking a step beyond where you are now. And go for it. Okay, what does it mean to a Libra? Well, and go for it. Okay, what does it mean to a Libra? Well, Libra, this is a time, when I was talented. You need to work a little hard at using that talent, at taking a step beyond where you are now. And go for it. Okay, what does it mean to a Libra? Well, Libra, this is a time when I would say that the new moon in Aquarius yesterday is doing you a world of good. Now, you need this, Libra, and the reason why is yours is a cardinal sign. And so the 4 planets in Capricorn, you know, Mars exalted there, Venus, Pluto, and Mercury, which is retrograde in Capricorn, are all squaring your sign. There is a business matter or a partnership matter, which is what you could call sticky. And it's just that there's a misunderstanding somewhere. I would say it's not on your part. I think it's on the other person's part, or the organization or whatever. They don't understand something. It's like no matter what you tell them, they don't get it. And so there's that problem. But on the other hand, you know, I think you should just be patient and understand that that is their problem. It isn't yours. You have conveyed something clearly, they just don't get it. So, since the Sun, New Moon, and Saturn in Aquarius are all trining your Sun, that is an indication that prominent people in high places and old friends that you've known for a long time, or even something that has been sort of on the back burner for a long time, is about to reach fruition. It really is about to benefit you, Libra. And you can either worry about somebody else who's not getting the message, Or else you could sort of let that go for now and stop trying to communicate with them. They'll figure it out sooner or later. And just realize you're coming into a time when you're going to have a golden opportunity to sort of carry something forward. And that's good. It will involve you more. You need to be busier. And it is rock solid, whatever it is. Sun, Moon, and Saturn. It doesn't get more rock solid than that. And it's trining your sun. So that's what you need to. Little misunderstandings, I would just, forget them right now. And instead concentrate on something that can be carried forward. In other words, I think you've been interested in it for a while. A long while, actually. And it could involve a partnership. It could very much involve something new, though. And, sort of unproven. You might not know if it's going to work or not. But it could be a wonderful time for you to take a solid step forward with the backing of very solid people that are with you on it. They're right there with you. So I would do that, Libra, and good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? Scorpio. This is a time when, since yours is a fixed sign, you are looking at an implosion somewhere. And I don't necessarily think it's yours, but it is what you might call in the neighborhood. And it is because the Sun, New Moon, and Saturn in Aquarius are squaring your sun sign, and that powerhouse Uranus in Taurus, which is so beautifully backed up from the planets in Capricorn, is opposing your sun sign. So that's 4 planets in the fixed signs, and they're all squaring or opposing your sun sign. So I think that you have to sort of tiptoe around, Scorpio, and try to quietly go about your business. But I would say make a real effort not to make waves. And as far as you feeling as if there can be an implosion in your life, or some melancholy or depression going on, all I'm wondering is that more a function of your fatigue? Or is it really something that's truly bothering you? Scorpios sort of don't know when to quit. The fixed signs, they really don't know when. None of them know when to quit because they have fixed natures. But Scorpio, yours is a healing water sign. And so you know that in order to heal, people have to rest. And they have to get exercise. They have to be healthy. They have to take time to relax and enjoy simple pleasures, because that's healing. And getting enough sleep is healing. People think when they go to sleep, oh, they're not doing anything because they're asleep. Oh, what a joke. Your whole body is going to work the minute that you go to sleep. I mean, it just says, oh yeah, they're asleep now, let's get to work. And they do all kinds of things. Your bones, they're making the blood that you live on. Your organs, they're cleaning themselves out. Your muscles, they're relaxing, maybe from a hard day's work. Your thoughts, you can work out things that you don't necessarily want to face from your everyday life, but when you're sleeping, something comes out in the dreams. Something works out. So we all need to slow down a little bit, Scorpio, and maybe this is a good time for you to do that. And one reason, if you are feeling melancholy or depressed about anything, there is the possibility that there isn't as much money around as you thought there would be. Now, join the club. There isn't for anybody. That's because we are all victims of inflation. Nobody's money has the value that it used to have because inflation has risen so quickly and so high. You know, I was saying that the slow planets were not in the same position 28 to 30 years ago when the new moon and Saturn were in Aquarius in the 90s, just like they were yesterday. But the slow planets weren't in the same place, and that is affecting us now. But you know, that can be affecting our wallets. And that is because yours is a fixed financial sign, and so is Taurus. And Uranus is so volatile. As a point in time to compare what it's like to have Uranus in Taurus, Uranus is such a slow mover, it takes 84 years for it to get around. In comparison, Saturn seems sort of fast at 28 to 30. But it takes 84 years for Uranus to get around a chart even once. So it's about once a century that it is in a sun sign. And that means it hasn't been in Taurus for a long time. And in fact, the last time that Uranus was in Taurus was between the years of 1935 and 1942. And that was the height of the Great Depression and then going into World War II. And so that's a point in time that gives you a historical reference for what it means to have Uranus in Taurus. Yours is the other fixed financial sign. And so, you know, great fortunes were won and lost during that time. And so the point is that you need to hang on to yours, Scorpio. And I think you can do that. But it might come down to the fact that there isn't as much money around as you thought there would be to do something. And because of the high debt and because of high inflation, the good old days aren't coming back for a while. Believe me, they're not. Inflation hasn't been with us for 40 years. That was before the high tech came into being. 40 years was in the 1980s. And high tech's really got underway at the end of the 80s and into the 1990s, particularly by mid-1990. So, Scorpio, you may have to be a little more economical with your plans. And also, you should really watch your investments closely. Another thing you should watch is something that your sign rules, and it's taxes. You really have to make sure you're on top of the tax picture. And so, you know, don't wait till the last minute to file your taxes, Scorpio. You want to be really sure and go over everything, make sure you got everything right. Because if you're careful in handling your money, at least you'll be keeping what you've got. It's just that there may not be as much coming in as you thought there would be. But otherwise, I don't think that you would be necessarily hurt beyond the fact that everybody's budget is getting killed by inflation. And the country is too much in debt. So just hang on to what's yours. Okay, what does it mean to a Sagittarius? Sagittarius. Well, there aren't any planets in the fire signs, so it's not like you can be a ball of fire right now, Sagittarius. But that new moon yesterday in Aquarius, along with the Sun and Saturn, were sextiling your Sun, which is pretty nice. It means that you can have an opportunity to do something that involves a future project of yours. And it can be that there may even be the possibility of somebody coming to you with something new, a new idea, that you haven't thought of at all. But it could be very appealing to you. So keep your ears tuned, Sagittarius, for something new that could be on your horizon. And at the same time, because the sun and the moon conjuncting Saturn, which can be a planet of depression or melancholy, if somebody wants to tell you their sad tale of woe because they feel their whole life is imploding on them, you can take the time to listen. That would be great. But you may also have some rather nice remedy that they could try, or a good counselor they could go see, something like that. You could be a help to them, which would be nice. So, and if you are interested in anything that has to do with the future development of technology, I would stay with that. That could work out well for you. Just even if it's only little by little, over 28 to 30 years, it could turn out fine. So there isn't much bothering your sign right now. Well, there's nothing in fire signs, but Jupiter and Neptune and Pisces are squaring your sun, which means there are secrets that are still going to come out. And if they aren't coming out, then somebody might be hiding something, Sagittarius. And before you agree to anything, you ought to check it out a couple times in a couple different ways. If somebody tells you something, make sure their stories match. Just get it verified by somebody else first before you believe it. Okay, what does it mean to a Capricorn? Well, Capricorn, that new moon in Aquarius yesterday was right ahead of your sun sign. Isn't that nice? You can almost feel as if you're stepping into the future, Capricorn, or stepping into something that's new and experimental or exciting, or, it can be that whatever you're doing, Capricorn, there could be what you might call an advanced development from whatever you're doing. In other words, maybe you're just real busy doing something right now, but there is a possibility with the lights, the sun and the moon and Saturn right in front of your sun sign, that something that you're doing can sort of morph in a new direction. Oddly enough, though, that new direction might be something that you're already familiar with. In other words, something you used to do in the past. Remember, Saturn rules time, and it's your sun sign ruler. So it can be that something you're doing you might go back to, or you might have always wanted to do something, and the opportunity finally comes up, and you feel really well prepared for it, and you go ahead with it. And you have backing from people who really believe in you. That's good too. One thing about an economic downturn is that sooner or later, it isn't happening now because inflation is too high, but it probably will happen, is that prices do come down, or they do stabilize. And they may not be doing it now, but that could be coming up this year, later on this year. And so you would want to make sure that you had a little nest egg set aside somewhere, Capricorn, for something that you've wanted for a long time. And if the price came down, maybe you could afford it a little bit better. And that's why there may not be as many surprises ahead of you as you think, but there certainly can be new developments that sort of morph from what you're doing, but they might involve going back to something you did before, but you might do it in a new way. In other words, you have the skills, but it's sort of something new. And that could work out really well for you. And it could be part-time, not full-time. So good luck. You're sort of in a very good spot to sort of look around and see what else is out there. And go for it. Okay, what does it mean to a Pisces? Oh no, an Aquarian? Well, Aquarius, congratulations. The new moon yesterday was in your sun sign along with Saturn. So it might be you, Aquarius, that is feeling as if something is imploding in your life. And remember, an implosion is when things fall down on themselves. They fall down within. And so, it might be that you had been hoping that something would happen, but maybe due to financial conditions beyond your control, it's not going to happen right now. Or it may be that even long ago, even as back as far as the 90s, you had agreed to the terms of something, and today things are changed outwardly, and that has affected the agreement in a way that could mean a fluctuation in your financial resources. That could depress you. But on the other hand, we're all going through disappointing times because of inflation and because the market seems sort of chaotic. And so people who have a lot in their 401k plans are sort of worried right now. And it seems that prices are going up a lot. But I would say that as things tighten up a little bit, as people say, oh, gee, I can't afford everything, prices are going to have to come down. And so I think, Aquarius, this is a sort of a good time for you to sort of hole up. In other words, try not to spend too much money right now. And also, try to fortify yourself. And by that I mean, get real comfortable where you are. Settle in a little bit more. Involve your old friends, because they can be really dear to you. And you may even decide that you'd rather do things even that you learned as a young person, because you understand that world better than the one we're going into. And that one that we're going into is the next wave, the second wave of high tech. And I would say it centers around artificial intelligence. How interested are you in that, Aquarius? I mean, does that have a daily application in your life? If it doesn't, forget it. Just fortify yourself right now is what you ought to do. Because your sun sign isn't fortified at all. That's why you have to make sure your home surroundings or wherever you work or something like that are really secure. And that would be the money that you have in the bank as well. Be careful with that. This is not a time for you to take a gamble on anything. Nobody should take a gamble on anything. So just sort of try to bring things together in your own way, Aquarius. And I would say, sit this out. Just sit something out right now. That doesn't sound like a recipe for long-term success, but it could give you a lot of security at the moment. And I think that's what you should concentrate on, if you can. Okay, what does it mean to a Pisces? Well, Pisces, this is a time with that new moon in Aquarius yesterday, with the sun, the new moon, and Saturn right behind your sun sign, that there can be something in the background of your life, even something a little secretive, Pisces, that you are becoming very serious about. And I think that maybe you have always been more serious than anybody realized about something. It could be your career. It could be some unusual thing or hobby that you have. It could be something that has to do with high tech. It also could be an indication, since that new moon was in the background of your life, and that means a lot of people can see what you're doing in the background of your life, Pisces. But it can involve something that you are more ready for now than you have been your whole life. In other words, there's something real serious going on behind the scenes in your life, Pisces. It may be that you have matured to the level where you can take on extra responsibility. It may be that you want to retire. Saturn is a planet that rules retirement because it rules Capricorn. And Capricorn is very strong right now. All 4 planets in Capricorn sextile your sun. And Uranus and Taurus also sextiles your sun. So I would say there is something very serious going on in the background of your life right now, Pisces. And if nothing else, Saturn is a planet of hard work and commitment. And it can be, it doesn't have to be something that's real hard to do. It could be something that you had to be mature enough to know how good it was before you did it. In other words, when we're teenagers, everything looks great, you know. And then when we get a little bit older and have children, some of our values change because we have other people to take care of. And sometimes we get so busy in our careers, we don't take time for what we'd rather be doing, or we don't take time to make ourselves happy if we're sort of busy trying to make everybody else happy. And so there can be something in the background of your life that's a little bit unusual, ahead of its time, but sort of on a genius level, and or a surprisingly understandable level, something you understand. And only now could you appreciate what it is. And I would say that's a strong signal, Pisces, that finally you're ready for something. It's pretty serious, though, but you're ready. There isn't much stopping you either. The new moon isn't fortified, but, you know, the way the planets are set up around your sun sign, you have a lot of support right now. So I would say, think carefully about whatever that serious thing is that you're thinking about, Pisces, because it would be forever. It's a forever thing. So, you know, just think about it. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, you can see the show and read our blog on our website, STARBORNinstitute.org. And also, if you'd like me to, I'd be happy to send you the show personally if you subscribe to my Karen Campbell YouTube channel. Then I'll send it to you every Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thanks a lot. Bye.